Hello, everybody. My name is Wesley Hales, and I'm going to be going over today some of the tools that my people use whenever they're doing my kinds of research. My tour was about some historical deja vu with medieval manuscripts meeting the advent of the printing press and our modern day transition from print to digital when it comes to writing and cataloging knowledge, how we see repeating trends throughout history. And I just wanted to remind people of some of my VIPs, two of them to be exact. Katie Kojali, who was a classmate that took a lot of historical classes with me throughout my undergrad years. We shared a research seminar together called Information Ages, where we got to write about basically this. And Paul Dover, who taught that same Information Ages research seminar. Please forgive the horrible picture of him. This is the only picture that I could find on the internet that is on KSU's website. It looks like he took this picture on his laptop camera. Now, the first important tool that all of my people use are manuscripts. Manuscripts are incredibly important because of the preservation acts that we have done so far to keep them alive. And I actually have had personal experience and had the opportunity to touch some of these and interact with them, and that's why this is one of the most important tools in my eye. I got to be part of a tour at the KSU Rare Book Library during our Information Ages research seminar. We got to touch a bunch of old works, some old prints of Bibles. Their library there is absolutely extensive. They have a mock-up of one of the original Gutenberg Bibles. It's not an OG, it's not an original, but the book, even though it is a recreation, is extremely valuable. Their collection harbors an impressive collection of medieval works and manuscripts. The picture you see on the right is actually a picture of the book that me and a couple of my other classmates were looking at while we did our tour. This is one of the very first batches of books that was printed on a printing press, and what you're looking at in this picture is their publisher watermark, for Aldus. And from what I can remember, what that creature is what they described dolphins as. We've had a problem throughout history of representing dolphins in paintings. Here's another picture, two pictures actually, of that book. It's written in Italian, and one of the most impressive pieces of this book was some of the marginalia that you see here on this side here, and this right here is a finger pointer. That you see the hand, and then the finger goes off and points towards this line here. You can see this is actually marginalia from one of the original readers, so this handwritten stuff here is as old, maybe a little bit younger than this book here, but not by much. Now, this is really, really interesting. I really wish I knew what this stuff down here said, but you can see, I mean, he's done a whole bunch of drawing down the side here, a whole bunch of marginalia, more and more you see finger pointers. This section here and this section here actually is talking a lot of smack at the current pope. I can't remember what it all said, but I know that Paul Dover said that he called him a pig of some sort, and how he is just a worldly man that shouldn't be a pope, and how he indulges in the extremes that Christianity warns ordinary people about. And that was one of the most interesting pieces of this book here. This Bentley's Rare Book Museum, while it is mostly reserved for students, their collection is also open to fellow researchers. So any of us willing to make the drive could take a look at their extensive collection for research purposes. Up top in the top right is a list of what their collection harbors. I'm mostly interested in medieval and early Renaissance manuscripts, as well as what we call an incunabula. That is a tricky word. I'm glad I got it on the first try. Incunabula, or an incunabulum, is a book or pamphlet or broadside that was printed in the earliest stages of printing in Europe, up to the year 1500. So this book here that I looked at is considered an incunabula. or an incunabulum. This is the foyer down there in the bottom right to their rare book museum. It shows some of their coolest stuff behind cases and stuff that you can look at. But their actual collection is way back there in those doors back to the back right. We got to go through there as students and go and touch some stuff. But what they have here in front is what the ordinary people can look at, like the ordinary people going through the tours and just wanting to peek in. Now, I wanted to talk about this part right here because this goes to kind of confirm one of my points that I made in my initial tour, that we are actively digitizing and preserving the past documents and historical documents even at this college. KSU's Rare Book Library is committed to digitizing historical writing. Here we see a student that has undergone a couple of efforts to fix up a historical newspaper that got a massive tear. You see him working with a little stencil down there, probably putting in some glue that is safe for the paper, and then they are going to go and digitize it. Now, what they're doing with their digitized works, what I can only imagine is that they're putting them up on the KSU library, which I believe you can access without a login. Don't quote me. Or they can be found on JSTOR. Now let's move into the modern day, the people that I'm talking about on the other half of my tour, in the technological age. We use book scanners, which is a modern preservation tool as well as a ebook tool, as we'll get into. But this is one of the most important tools that we have in literary history. This piece of technology takes scans of the pages of individual books and turns those scans of pages into a PDF file, and it conglomerates them and puts them in order so that you have a full start to finish version, digital version of the physical book. Now, it's just got a small price to pay. A machine like the one that you see pictured here, that goes all the way down to the floor, it's this old standing machine, only costs you a modest sum of $10,000. I know, not everybody can afford it, and I could probably say that it's best to leave the large-scale scanning and conversions to the professionals that can afford this kind of budget. However, there are a couple of desktop models that you can just put on a table that are less expensive that you can use for personal use if you want to convert some of your books into PDF format or some of your documents into PDF format. And this is actually how we go about making a lot of ebooks. Book scanners can be used to create ebooks. They can transcribe the words that are written onto the page into text files that can be organized and transcribed exactly as they are into the page. And a lot of that muscle work of actually organizing and transcribing them, I believe, can actually be done by this machine so that you're not having to go through after the fact and fix syntax errors and mishmash errors. Now, I want to get into one of our simplest tools, and I'm kind of stretching on this, but you'll see what I mean here in a second. One of our most important tools that my people use is our bare hands. Now, that is a bit weird upon first read. You might think it's a little silly, and it might just be a no-brainer, but I chose this tool because it's got a misconception about handling medieval manuscripts. Because whenever you think of someone handling these old texts, super delicate, you're probably imagining someone wearing gloves and PPE to keep all sort of stuff off of the book and, to keep it exactly as it was. But that's not the case in reality. And as you might have noticed, way back in my pictures back here, that I'm actually messing with a book from 1500 with my bare hands. You can see my fingers poking through there on the bottom of the page because I am a great picture taker. Here's a quote up here. It is also reassuring to know that it was recognized in the Middle Ages that wearing gloves to handle books was to be frowned upon. Now, here's the misconception with gloves. Though we would like to imagine that gloves help to protect these handled documents, we actually have no evidence that they provide any protective barrier. Cotton gloves in particular increase the risk of dirt transfer and ink scraping because those fibers will graze across the page and pull up ink or transfer dirt from the gloves onto the paper, and it just has a very counterintuitive effect. Furthermore, we found that the natural oils on our hands actually help to preserve the paper. So that's why in that picture back there you see me touching this really, really old book with my bare hands. Because, you don't want to touch the books with dirty hands. Obviously, you want to wash your hands, and we washed our hands before we touched those books. But the oils that can be found on your hands, actually, when they're put down on that paper, it actually helps in the preservation process. It's a really weird thing to think about. You'd think that it's really counterintuitive and that you'd want to be super protective, but what is it? Nature always wins kind of thing. Now, I just wanted to say thank you to all you for listening to this toolkit. I didn't pick the most interesting of subjects, but it's super interesting to me. I hope that throughout this presentation, I've given you all enough resources to know just how me and my people do what we do best, and that is geeking out about manuscripts and old books and my transposing into the modern day with the digital world. Thank you to all you who have listened. I hope you have a great rest of your day.